We will call the meeting to order at 5:33, and that's item number 2 is roll call. And Kingston Cole,
Here.
myself present, Stephen Keys, you're on mute. We'll come back. Lucy,
Here.
you're here.
Oh yeah, sorry, I'm here. Yeah.
Yeah, we know. Thank you. Rebecca.
I'm here.
Yes, thank you. Rebecca was almost here last night, by the way. Pat, we resolved that.
Yeah. Hi. Here.
You're here, yes. Larry?
I showed up last night too.
Oh,
How was it? Did you resolve anything?
A little bit lonely.
Max?
Here.
Here. And Carolyn?
yep, here.
Last but not least. Okay, thank you all. All right. Number 3 is agenda adjustments. Would anyone at this time want to make any sort of adjustment to the agenda? Seeing none, we will continue on. Item 4 is open time for public comment. And we have no public at the moment, so we will continue moving on.
What?
Sorry, I'm disappointed. Do you want to call someone up?
I do. Yes.
Bruce-
Friend.
Get on the phone. I'll
Bruce,
stop.
Bruce must be busy tonight.
Exactly my point.
Does anyone have a spouse they can call from the other room or?
That could be, it could be Stephen.
Exactly.
Okay, all right. Well, with that, hopefully someone will show up. They're just finishing their dinner. Okay, item number 5 is the executive officer's report. And Mark, if you would, please.
Good evening, everybody. And I did see a lot of you attending the latest board meeting. So much of what I'll say will be a little bit of a repeat for you. But very happy that we approved our mission and vision. I think the process to get to the mission and vision was a good process. We were able to solicit feedback from board members as well as members of the public and integrate that. So I feel good with the mission and vision. Got a really good start at the goals and the values that we discussed during the meeting. And I've been getting some feedback from board members. Jean, Bill Keane, and I met 2 days ago, I think it was, and started integrating the comments that we received there. And we feel like we've landed in a good spot. And we have another ad hoc subcommittee meeting to get the subcommittee's views on the edits. And we hope that our next board meeting that we'll be able to approve the goals and values. And then we're also going to include some objectives for one of the goals to give a flavor of how the objectives relate to the goals when it comes to measurable metrics. And then we are still finding the sweet spot with minutes and having the appropriate level of content. So there was a discussion during the consent calendar regarding minutes. The great thing about Tony DeFrancis, who does our minutes for us, when she hears that feedback during the meeting, she automatically starts making adjustments, and I hardly even have to ask her to do it. So Tony, while you're doing these minutes, thank you. And so our latest minutes from the board meeting did have greater content in it. And so we'll see how the public and all of our committees and board feel about the level of content that we have in it. Ops and the advisory technical committee have not had any public meetings. However, the various regional areas, north, the Novato, San Rafael, the 5 geographical areas have been in their ad hoc subcommittees working through their, mostly working on what projects they envision, while Lynn Osgood has been doing a fantastic job of rebuilding the project sheet to capture all the components that we need to have captured on it, whether it's a core project, a local mitigation project, maybe it's a defensible space project, hits the financial pieces that we need to have in there. And then we've greatly expanded the environmental requirements that'll be in that form. The form is currently being reviewed at Remy Moose Manley to make sure of its total content, and Sabrina from Remy Moose Manley is making some recommendations for us. Form 700, Carolyn, thank you for letting me know that you had not received anything from the county yet. So that prompted me to give Dan a call. And now I think that you guys have all been received that for the Form 700.
Yeah, it's like 25 pages long.
And that's and so my goal is to get it to where we do the online submissions. But however, we have to get board of supervisors approval before the online portion can be opened up for the MWPA. And the great thing about that, though, once it's in the online version, it is super easy to fill out, especially subsequent years. So we're looking forward to that. Recruitment. I think the last time we talked about recruitment, we hadn't had the interviews yet. We had the interviews. We had a great panel, and we're down to 2 fantastic candidates. In fact, one of the panelists said the scope of work that I'm asking from the planning program manager is probably 2 positions. And if you could find a way to create 2 positions, you should hire both of them. Well, that's not going to happen. So both of them are going through backgrounds, and we use the background process to help further vet who will be the right person for the organization. One way or another, I know we're going to have a very talented individual in that position. During not last meeting, actually, I touched on it a little bit last meeting, and I can't remember, and you guys can help me out. I did an executive review of the NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology study on the campfire. It's like a 5-page executive review, and I can't remember if I sent it to you guys. And if you'd be interested in seeing it, I'd be happy to send that to you.
Yeah.
That would be.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll send that all to you. It's a 5-part study. The part that I gave the review on was part 3, and it's the timeline and really what carried the fire from the origin in and through Paradise. And so it's very pertinent to the mission and what we are doing with the MWPA. And I'm looking forward to, it's either part 4 or part 5, where they start getting into the sequencing and the notification and the evacuation process. So that data will be, again, very important for us. So once that section gets published, I'll be given another executive review for that. And the last thing I wanted to mention is after your successful completion of the bylaws, even though the board doesn't have the authority to approve them, we still have the process of them acknowledging them. And we are going to have them take a look at I feel that there's 2 categories, and Megan, I believe, brought this up as well, that aren't explicitly mentioned, or the process isn't explicitly mentioned in the founding documents, and that is the transparency piece. It doesn't specifically say that COC is responsible for transparency. However, it's implied through all of our values and all of the process that transparency is important. So I feel that is appropriate for the COC to provide. I doubt there's going to be any resistance from the board. I can't speak for them, but I doubt there will be resistance. And then the part that's not explicitly, the process is not explicitly stated for the recruitment of COC members. Again, we talked about this a little bit. The appointment is clear, it's from the board, but the language is completely absent of how that recruitment occurs. And you guys are offering a solution for that recruitment. And so to me, it seems like a viable option. So, but again, it'll be up to the board to take a look at that and say, yeah, you know what, we're good with that. So we'll see how that process pays out. The executive committee will weigh in on that, and then we'll see if it even needs to be reviewed at the full board level, or if it just be approved, or not approved, but acknowledged as part of the consent calendar in April. And with that, I'm open to any questions from you.
Does anyone have any questions at this point?
I do.
Lucy, please.
I just was very interested to note that Mill Valley, it was in the newspaper yesterday that Mill Valley is having this Google study done on evacuation routes. And I was wondering, is that pretty much what the big evacuation study that we're having countywide is Google going to be involved in that too, or that's a sort of a small Mill Valley only version that they've managed to coordinate with Google?
Yeah, it's right now it's Mill Valley only, and actually that that process started nearly 3 years ago. In fact, when I was the deputy chief for Marin County Fire, I sat in on a meeting where we met with Google about that particular topic, and that's how long it's taken to finally get to that point. Google may very well be a respondent to our RFP, and we are building in evacuation modeling to that RFP. So whether it's Google or some other firm that can access to that same type of data or run those same type of simulations, we do look to have that within the RFP.
Great, thanks.
Great. Are there any more questions or comments? Larry, please.
Yeah, Mark, regarding the last topic on recruitment, I guess one of the things you can ask the board members is, at least for the ones who represent a geography, whether they would float it out through their respective cities, much the way they would try and recruit for boards and commissions. Because ultimately, say, for example, in my position, I represent the Ross Valley. So between, I guess, Corte Madera, Larkspur, and Ross, they would be theoretically the ones selecting, that member.
Well, and then to take that a step further, going to the function, I'll call them the functional positions that within the COC, it would be good for the board to do that as well, but with a broader cast. Great point. I'll bring it up.
Yeah. Okay.
Rebecca, the floor is yours, please.
Mark, regarding the Form 700, should we drag our feet a little bit for a while until we know whether we can do online, or go ahead and do paper, thinking first time around it's going to have to be on paper?
I'd recommend doing it in paper first time around.
Okay. Not the answer I wanted, but okay.
I know.
Thank you. Larry, please.
Yeah. I have a suggestion for people who have a lot of entries is not to use the PDFs, but to go online to the FPP site and get their Excel spreadsheets instead.
Oh.
It's easier, for example, if you have a lot of individually owned securities that go over the threshold. And, what they have is just a single line where you put the name of the issue, what type of security it is, the value, and it's within a range. There are like 3 or 4 different ranges. And it's much easier to use that than it is to try and type everything into multiple copies of an A1.
Larry, if you send me that link to that FTP, I'll forward it to the entire committee.
Okay.
Great. Okay, I think that does it for questions. And so we will close on that item. We still have no public. Number 6 is consent calendar and to approve the minutes. And Pat, I know that you didn't even have to put your hand up. We were ahead of you now. Your name was spelled wrong in one area, and Mark has noted it, and it will be corrected. And are there any more comments to the minutes? Have people had a chance to read them, and are they happy with the current format? Carolyn, please.
I was trying to bring it up on my computer and I have not found it, but the minutes where we were approving the investigation of ESP, my recollection was we limited it to ESP, and it says that we're going to be investigating ESP and other environmental organizations. I know that there was something we said we were not targeting or looking into Fern, but anyway, what are other people's recollections?
Should we hold this until the item and then we can come back? We don't need to approve the minutes at the moment and actually hold it when we get to the item. Would everyone be okay with that?
You're right, Carolyn.
Okay, so we'll not approve the minutes at this moment. We'll go forward and then we can come back, Carolyn, to your
Fine, whatever works.
Well, actually, Kingston, are you saying it was just for ESP and not to other groups?
Yeah, it was about all the organizations that are part of ESP. There were 40 groups on their website. That's all. And as we have evolved, it's it's not that important, all right? We're not looking at everybody like Fern or anything else like that. We're just,
Well, let's just correct the minutes to clarify. I think that would be the way to go. I think
Okay.
it was in the minutes. Yeah,
I'll take a look and I'll limit it down to the ESP.
okay.
Sorry, Larry, but it's that reading Kingston's body language, I thought we might have an easy.
No. Let's, if it gets it out of the way, get it out of the way.
body language.
Kingston, your body language is almost as loud as mine.
Even
I
on,
mean, I was reading
online, huh?
it too. I was just trying to avoid back and forth. In any case, with that, I will would someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes, please?
I do. I'll make the motion.
Kingston, would someone like to second?
Second.
Second.
Second, okay. Do we have anyone opposed to the minutes at this moment? And
Not opposed.
Minutes approved. Okay, so we shall move on to item number 7, which are committee reports. And these are the monitoring assignment reports. And at this time, would anyone like to raise their hand and give a committee report?
And maybe and something I should have offered at our last meeting,
Please,
if you would like, if you have typed up notes or anything and you would like that to be part of the agenda packet, I can definitely do that. But just know that if we have a Wednesday meeting, that I would be asking for those typed up to me by the Thursday, the close of business, the Thursday prior to the meeting.
Got it.
Right, good to
And
know.
if we don't hand in typed up or et cetera minutes or notes, is it appropriate to do just a verbal presentation at the meeting like tonight?
Absolutely. And you can make it just a verbal, or if you make it a verbal, you can send me the document that represents that verbal report, and I can make it part of the minutes when we publish the minutes.
Great.
Got it.
Great. So at this time, I'll take hands if anyone wants to speak. Kingston, yes, you did have your hand up, please.
Yeah, this goes to what Mark was talking about. I sent a letter to Larry Minicus and Bill Cole as representatives of the ESP partnership with a series of questions. But let me, because the letter basically gives us the focus, what we were looking for, and the question answers, I think, the question that Carolyn had, what are you doing? Let me read to you the first couple paragraphs.
In Kingston, the agenda item that we're on right now, though, is for the monitoring assignments of
Right.
the board of directors and MWPA committees. We're not at the ESP.
I thought it was, I just raised my hand, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No,
My hand.
Pat, please.
So I am responsible for the attending the advisory technical committee, which hasn't met since we met the last time, but also for the executive committee. And the executive officer's report, you are all pretty well familiar with, particularly if you attend several of these different meetings. But one thing of note to me that's of importance is the Grizzly Corps has morphed into 2 positions, which is, I think, a good thing, because it's an inexpensive way to have more boots on the ground, which seemed like a really good thing. I was most interested in, there was a long presentation which was entitled Organizational Outreach, which I think several people sort of suggested that be named something different because it can mean lots of different things. But essentially it was focused on getting grant funding to back up all the funding that we'll have from Measure C. And they've reached out to a lot of different organizations that do grant funding, so that there's a lot going on in that area. Mark wisely reminded everyone that grant funding, if you've ever been involved with grant funding, you will know that grant funding isn't free, that there's often a lot of administrative reporting that goes along with it. But it still seems like a really good thing that they are reaching out to other organizations to bring in additional funding. And Julie McMillan pointed out that this is something that they should really talk about in the communication strategy, to be communicating to the public that in addition to the taxpayers' money, the taxpayers' money is really leveraging other money. And I think that was all. There was, obviously there was a lot more that was said at that meeting, but that was the things that struck me as being interesting and important for us to know about. And Mark, in the future, I will send you my notes. Maybe I won't send you my notes because I have to be a little bit more careful at typing them up. But I have been taking fairly significant notes at the meetings I'm responsible for, not every meeting that I sit in on.
Well, thank you, Pat. That was great. We
I have a
appreciate
question.
that. Kingston, yes, please.
Yeah, I think I listened to the same meeting, but the one guy that was there, the expert on grants, he basically was talking. I remember him saying that he thought he could double the $20 million we're getting a year. That he thinks it's going to be 40 million easy because of the unique nature of the MWPA. So, right, that's a lot of money. It's a lot.
It is, and we would love to be able to show the taxpayers for every dollar you are putting into the MWPA, you're getting. I mean, if we can get up to, for every dollar you're putting in, you're getting $2 out. That would be huge. We are being a little bit conservative right now because of the workload that would come to that. So we're going to build to that threshold, not jump to that threshold.
Great. And I'll give a very brief board report and sort of repeat what I said there, which was, it's really following these boards, these meetings. It's really a pleasure to see how people are interacting and working together on the executive committee and the various subcommittees, and then the board itself. And what's really good is they're working right now on the mission and vision, and a lot of really positive ideas came out of the board from that. And I just complimented them on the work that they're doing. And I just want to mention that I think that, for the complexity of what's going on and the newness of everything, people are really, I guess the best way to say is rowing together, or at least doing their best to. And with that, we will move on to committee report item B, which is the ESP Environmental Group's Ad Hoc Subcommittee report. Kingston, I believe you wanted to speak.
Right. I sent a memo to Larry Minikas and Bell Cole last week on the March 20th and try to get it in the package for this meeting. And it was just the timing wasn't right. And that's one of the reasons Mark just said, you got to get in on Thursday before the Wednesday meeting. And I guess I sent that on Friday or Saturday. Anyway.
I received it Monday morning.
Right, exactly.
So yeah, electronics, right?
Not working over the weekend? Okay.
I do, but no, it for whatever reason, it didn't land in my inbox till Monday.
Anyway, I'd like to read the first couple paragraphs of the memorandum to them. It sort of clarified. It was a question that Carolyn asked in the last meeting. It's in the minutes. What exactly are you looking at? And I think I could give you the answer where we're going. Let me read this. Let's see, starting with transparency is the key word for the work of this subcommittee. For over a year, the MWPA has worked hand in hand with the ESP partnership to develop management practices for the county's environment, streets, homes, etc., is described in the link behind the ESP partnership icon on the MWPA website. Your organization, as I'm speaking to Bell and Larry and friends, your organization comprises 40 different participating parties, including public agencies, nonprofits, and others dedicated to wildfire prevention. Your work effort has been focused on 3 critical areas, each with a respective committee, and I named them there. Our subcommittee's first goal is to make transparent and readily available to the public all past activities, communications, recommended environmental practices, etc., that have occurred between the MWPA and the various environmental groups that have contributed to the ESP partnership, dating from the 2 parties' initial agreement to the present. Our second goal is to ensure that all of these same activities, communications, recommended environmental practices, etc., are made available to the public on an ongoing basis in the future. Then there's a series of questions I sent to them asking for information back then. The other thing that's going on is Stephen Keys, because he was part of that initial phase, has gone back to just to talk with the people who basically were there at the beginning of the partnership to figure out whose idea was who decided about the icon. And we don't have all that information in. He's still investigating. And also Lucy has gone out and has spoken, I guess, with Mark and also with Goins about where we're going now. What's the status with ESP or the ESP partnership, and what do you think it's going to be in the future? Is there going to be a formal arrangement, an informal arrangement, whatever? So we're investigating those things. And I'm asking the questions I asked for all past activities, as many documents as you've got, that you can offer, videos, anything that tells us the history of what happened over the last year. And then going forward, the same things, okay? The videos, the memorandum, sort of to treat, we're asking the ESP partnership as you move forward to put everything up on the website, all right, from the past. In the future, notice of meetings, all right, minutes, videos, everything they can, essentially the same thing as any other part of MWPA would have to do. Of course, not being subject to the Brown Act at all. So we want everything out in public as much as possible. And that's where we are now. Well, I think we'll probably wrap it up in the next month and write a report with some recommendations to the full committee. Questions?
Questions? Anybody? Pat? And then Carolyn?
I have a question and a comment. I have been attending all 3 of the ESP subgroups meetings and have been impressed by how welcoming they are. That was never any problem of my joining the meetings. One thing that I have a little bit of a curiosity about and a little bit of a concern about is I have come to learn that there is a steering group who is making, as I understand it, final decisions as to the best practices, and I'm not sure what else. And it's unclear to me who's on the steering group, that one part of it. It seems to, there's no place on the website where that's listed. That seems to be a little less than transparent to me. And I would hope that becomes as transparent as the other aspects are. Clearly, Bell Cole is on the steering committee, but I'm not sure who else. Larry, I don't know if you are. I don't know. And that to me is to have the group that seems to be making the most serious final decisions not listed there seems to be less than transparent.
Okay. Well, I mean, we'll talk to Larry. This can be done as informally as possible. I mean, I've just asked a bunch of general questions of asking for documents in the past and a commitment to do so in the future. That doesn't mean I will call Larry and or Bell whatever the Brown Act permits me to do, and ask them about the steering committee. That's interesting. Okay, thanks.
Carolyn, you had your hand raised.
Yeah,
Thank you, Kristen. Thank you, Pat.
Yeah, well, thanks, Kingston. That's good to hear what's been going on with this. What you said about putting as much of this on the website as possible, I wonder, I mean, maybe Mark can help us with this, but is that our decision as the COC? I mean, or
Oh, no.
what would be, I don't know how that would work.
That would be the decision of the ESP partnership, and it's a voluntary thing. They don't want to do it, that's fine. I'm just saying the public, I think, has a right to know, but it's whatever they wish to give us. We're just asking for documents now. The commitment, especially going forward, all right, is really up to the ESP partnership. Okay.
Well, can I speak to this? And Mark can help me here. Yes and no. We would love to be able to get documentation up on the MWPA site. However, as Mark will tell you, there's just not the bandwidth. There's just no way it can happen. He's got his hands full, doesn't have enough people to be doing this. We're talking about with Mark if we can find a way to fund an independent website or a website tied to another group so that we can put some of this information up. And I think it's also important to understand that our very early meetings, Kingston, were at a Roma Cafe, around a table, 4 and 5 of us.
Well, I know. Yeah.
So if you want videotapes, you'll have to go to Roma and ask them for their security. And I don't know what you're going to get off of that. I'm so sorry.
I don't want to go through the whole thing now. If I realize that, and I'm just saying, give us what you got and tell us what you don't have.
Yeah, I mean, we're a group of citizens really that trying to bring together the smartest minds there are to we're not here to no one's dictating to the MWPA, and we're not hand in hand. I'm not sure how to define hand in hand. You know, what we're trying to do is figure out, once the MWPA is there to do their job, okay? But there's going to be material coming from that job, and there's also going to be impacts to the environment. So it's not, you wrote in your opening paragraph there, let me just repeat it. Give me a second here. I got to find your piece here, where you said it's mostly groups focused on dedicated to wildfire prevention. No, it's a whole host of environmental groups looking at all sorts of issues. So it isn't just the wildfire prevention. They're coming in, as you know, Audubon and all of them have concerns about removing underbrush, for example. You know, and so we are trying to find a way to suggest these would be the best practices going forward that will keep the vast majority of interests in Marin happy, because this is a very difficult undertaking that the MWPA is doing, and particularly in a county like Marin where there are so many eyes on every little thing you do. So that's what our work really is revolving around. This is not official. I'm just trying to help people understand where we've been all these months. You know,
I don't doubt the importance of all of it.
Right. No, but we'll get you what you want. It's, you know, we'll do our best job. I'm not trying to be defensive or anything like that. I'm just trying to say, here are the limitations we have, and here's kind of how we started. You know, it was really quite, I think we lost Max, it looks like.
Okay.
Just to have a foundation. Mark, if you want to speak to this, you know, the getting information up, it isn't that any of us don't want to be transparent, you know, and the steering committee is not like a Supreme Court. You know, all they're doing is I'm the only non-expert there, really. You know, the experts are there, and we're taking that information. We're just trying to put it in the best form possible, and then it'll be presented. You know, it's not locking anyone into place, and we're here as a partnership. We're not going to agree on everything. We expect to have some feedback and find that common ground where, again, it's Jason said this in the very beginning. I don't want all these environmental organizations coming at us when we get this agency running. I need one voice coming, and we'll listen. And they are, I've got to tell you, from day one, I felt nothing but cooperation and wanting to work together from day one. And I'm talking way before this measure even was birthed. So Carolyn, please.
Yeah, no, I want to agree with that. I mean, we have Bruce Goines attends almost all the meetings, and he's been very receptive. But what I want to, my main point is, and correct me if I'm not right on this, but it seems to me we are closing in on finalizing our BMPs for all three groups. We're pretty close. We have a draft. And I hope at our next meeting we can approve it. And then, as far as I know, we'll send it to the board. And I hope it does go up on the website. That is our intention.
Yeah.
We've talked about that. You know, we want them to be out there, especially for all the practitioners who are doing these projects.
Well, I don't know whether you're planning on having ongoing relations with MWPA, you know, as the environmental groups or not. So, but I mean, if there's going to be future activity, I'm just saying we'd like to have it out in front so the public can see it, the public can understand. Okay.
Absolutely. It's important.
And whatever, if you don't have stuff from the past, Larry, then say so. That's fine.
Right. Well, it's also going to be bandwidth, you know, because we're trying to do a lot right now. I've got to tell you, we have 2 to 3 meetings every week.
One of the last questions was, how long is it going to take you to respond?
No, I know. I'm just saying we're going to do our best. Lucy, in fact,
Larry, I've seen that dodge before. Come on.
No, just so you know, Bell, myself, Mike, and Bill have not had really a chance to even talk yet. Bell wrote a note. Let's address this soon, and that's as far as we've gotten. So I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, and Bell comes at me later saying, "What did you say?" Oh, Lucy, please.
I was just wondering, and this might not be clear to anybody yet, but once you've issued your BMPs, where do you see ESP continuing to play a role, and would it necessarily be on the website?
That's a really good question, Lucy, and I don't know that it will end too quickly, because I think there's going to be evolution, and I've said this before, you know, we're going to go forward. We're doing a lot of new things. Mistakes should be happening. We're going to have to back off and say, wait, we tried it this way. The board tried it this way. They made a decision. We found out, wait, there's new science here. There's this, that. There's always something to learn. And if we can bring, and what Bell is particularly good at and resourceful at, are bringing in all sorts of experts. I mean, like the top people to speak and work with us. And I think that it can continue to have value, but I can't really say, you know, we're just trying to help at this point. I mean, that's our, just doing it, you know. So.
We haven't discussed it. We haven't discussed what to do once we get the BMPs done.
Thank you, Carolyn. Yeah, no,
we don't know.
We don't know. Larry, please.
I don't know. This is probably best question for Mark. Is the board evaluating the difference between what it would cost fire professionals to do something if they were to do it without, let's just say, feedback, versus the additional, let's just say, the best practices that are going to be suggested? Because ultimately we know that when you do things at a higher threshold, it costs more. So what are you giving up for it? You know, are you, how much less are you going to be able to do programmatically? And I don't know the answer to that. I'm just thinking about it in terms of process and how they make that decision.
That type of analysis, no, we haven't really explored that. But I can say the premise was between the partnership from Jason and Bill Tyler was that fire professionals, our expertise is not environmental compliance. And we are looking to the experts to help us with that environmental compliance. And at this point, we're getting that advice for free. So there is a cost benefit to that.
How do you know when you're paying too much? Who's going to make that type of decision?
For a project or for environmental compliance?
Well, there's compliance, and then there's the desire to have it at a certain threshold.
And that is where the board is going to weigh in to balance what is MWPA's mission versus what are the nice to haves. And we will be staying within MWPA's mission. And if a nice to have is in alignment with what MWPA's mission is, and it's not going to cost us more, then that would be a win-win.
Yeah, I mean, I would think compliance is your lowest threshold.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. And then anything, yeah, you've characterized it right. So I think, yeah, I mean, I don't have anything else to ask. I just want to see if, you're thinking about it in terms of, the cost benefit. And of course, it's not a true comparison in terms of you pay for X and you get Y back as a direct, return.
And I guess the best way to characterize what we were just talking about is that we are looking for win-win solutions as long as we are staying within our mission and not having mission creep.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, and several of you probably saw today's IJ with the article that Mill Valley had to pay out $200,000 over a vegetation issue that they regret ever coming forward. And I kind of feel from the beginning we've been talking about this. What we're trying to do is avoid these kind of blockages hitting the agency, these lawsuits that we wanted from the very beginning to get the voices that are going to talk the loudest to let's all sit together, and work this out so that we don't have these disparate groups filing lawsuits. So there's that other hidden advantage. Lucy, please.
To what extent do you think that you can persuade or bring other groups into the fold who might be sitting out there feeling, I don't know, I recognize that ESP's got a considerable number of quite influential environmentalists in their number, but obviously there are others who aren't. And do you think that ESP would have the ability to reassure and, if necessary, not compel, but persuade them to back off or give it time or see how it goes before taking any action? Do you think ESP could be playing that role?
I think that's what ESP is doing.
Okay.
Pat said it really well, is that, we have an open tent. Mm-hmm. This is not it's never been thought of as we experts. Let me put it that way, because I'm no expert. So that counts me out right away. It's always been an open tent. So we always welcome those opinions, because what we're trying to do is help. And if you've all lived here long enough, what goes on in this county, and you know how easy it is for things to get blocked, and that's what, in a way, I was looking at from day one, is move things smoothly, because what we've got to do is really, really important. We don't have a lot of time, when you really think about
that. Concludes my report.
What it is the agency is actually working on is really life and death, and so it's not time to fool around. That's how I feel. Mark, back to you if you want to say any last.
No, I think we covered it well.
Okay, great. So let's move on to item C, and this will be short. It's policy and procedures ad hoc subcommittee report, and Pat asked. I think you all may have seen that Pat has a full plate and felt that she needed to take a break somewhere. Pat, that is so understandable.
Yeah. And the good news, I knew that this committee needs to get work done right away, that probably by mid to late May, my plate will get a little bit easier because a couple of big projects I'm working on are going to go away by then. So then I can re-engage with another committee, but I knew this one needed to get to work right away, and I need to be able to work in my garden and read a book from time to time.
All of us, absolutely, Pat. Totally appreciate that. You know, thank you. And I'll say that Rebecca wrote, you know, she had stepped down and she wanted to put her name back on the floor. And so I will do that for Rebecca's put her name on the floor and see if there's any other names that would like to go. We have one opening, is that correct? I think, yeah, we have 3. Yeah, so we have 1 opening. Is there any objection to Rebecca coming back on the, or coming on to the Policies and Committee and Procedures Committee? And seeing none, Rebecca, oh, Max, please.
Yeah, I'm a member of the committee, but my understanding was this committee was just to focus on the code of conduct.
No, rules and code of conduct.
Okay, so we see this as a more permanent rules and procedures committee longer term.
Well, it's ad hoc at the moment, so it's not a standing committee, no.
If you make it a long-term standing committee, then it is bound by the Brown Act.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you got to
Want
think
that.
about that. You want that, Max?
No, because then we'd only have a couple. Then only like 2 of us could meet.
Well, a standing committee can have more than a quorum. However, every standing committee meeting is bound by the Brown Act.
Yeah, I see the challenge more on like emailing to find a time, right? You know, you would have to involve Mark in scheduling our meetings, and I don't think Mark wants to be our scheduler. So let's not do that. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, very good, very good. So seeing no objections, Rebecca, welcome to the committee. And I guess what we'll do is we'll send a note around between us and we'll just decide. There's no like tremendous rush here. I mean, there's nothing. We want to get going, but I'm just saying there's no urgency. So whenever everyone feels comfortable meeting, I am happy to meet as well.
And Max, I appreciate your concern for my time. However, if you need any of the resources of the MWPA, please do not hesitate to ask me.
Spoken like a trooper. Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Mark. Specifically on scheduling a subcommittee of the Oversight Committee, I thought maybe you don't want to do that.
Scheduling, no, but giving you the, yeah, I prefer to avoid that, but giving you what you need to get that meeting done, I'm happy to do.
Great, thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
and with that, are there any more comments on this item? Seeing none, we will close the item. There's no public, so there's no public comments. Number 8 are information items. Does anyone have items of information they would like to share at this time? And it can be anything related or not directly related to the MWPA if you'd like to share. Rebecca, please, and you're on mute.
Thank you. I don't know where to put this, and I'm not sure how appropriate it is. So Mark, you can take note and then I won't talk about it anymore. If you aren't aware, Bruce Goines mentions it every once in a while. We have a team of students at Stanford who's working on a white paper or case study, not sure which yet, on MWPA. It will be the history of what prompted it in the first place, and then how it began to how it got started, when it started, and then maybe continuing on into this first year, how it's all working. We think it will. It just depends on the students and who else gets involved. You may hear about it because lots of interviews are going to start happening. We did our first one today with Bruce Goines, and it will continue on now with lots of people who were involved in the whole process. So if you hear any more stuff going on about it, I think that Bruce Goines will be mentioning it sometimes at the board meeting. But anyway, the reason I mention it here is because the beginnings of it actually came out of COC meeting discussions about how it all got started. So initially it was going to be a COC project, I think, but then it kind of morphed and went another direction. So anyway, it's now being done by Stanford.
Cool.
And thanks for bringing that up, Rebecca. And information items is the perfect time to bring up a topic like this. So,
Yay.
and personally, I'm looking forward to it because I get frequent inquiries from people asking how it all happened. And I haven't been smart enough to create a boilerplate language where I could just cut and paste. So I'm asking this group to make that boilerplate language that I can just cut and paste.
It'll be there. That was one of the charges that Bruce gave the team.
Yeah, and there's opportunities to do more beyond this, so people can put on their thinking caps if you have ideas. I believe one of the students is a master's student and the other one is a PhD. So from what I'm understanding, so it's really exciting. It's really
Impressive bios. Yes, they are.
Yeah. Well, good. And Carolyn, please.
Rebecca, do you have a role on this in this project? It sort of sounds like you might.
And that morphed initially because MWPA people like Jason and Bill and Bruce were getting questions from everybody all around the state. What is this? What are you doing? How did it happen? I got mentioned as a person to perhaps write something because I was the research person on the civil grand jury. So I was going to do it myself. And oh God, thank you. I don't remember, Stephen, if you mentioned it or Bruce mentioned it. Somebody mentioned that it could be done in a university. We went out looking and several universities we talked to several, and Stanford's the one who actually came up with a team and put it all together quick enough. And
are they undergraduates or graduates, or what department is it in? I mean,
a couple of departments, but political science is involved, environmental is involved, history is involved.
Isn't that cool?
It is.
We're so interesting.
They are excited and interested. Yeah. Stanford is very excited that it's a local Bay Area, and they're offering all kinds of interesting resources.
Yeah. So I was involved a little bit in the very beginning also. We contacted Stanford, Berkeley, Presidio Graduate School, and Harvard to see the Kennedy School at Harvard, to see if any of the graduate students might have an interest in doing some research on a pioneering organization like the MWPA and do a policy study. So approached both the journalism schools at Stanford and Berkeley, and at the Presidio School, graduate school. The contact there is Chance Cutrano, who's a town councilor here in Fairfax. He got his degree there, and he's also a adjunct faculty member. Harvard and Berkeley, I think, were interested, but their timing didn't work out. And I think they also wanted somebody to throw in some funding, so nothing went there. But Rebecca, you know more about this. And
that's all. Yes, true. All that happened. And the reason I'm still involved is they needed somebody to be the handholder, go between, call this person, call that person. So I'm doing that.
Okay, great.
Wow, Rebecca, that's fantastic. That's really exciting. That's what a COC should be doing. Stuff like this, helping out.
I do think COC eventually can be involved more, but we'll see how it all morphs. It's going to keep changing, I think.
Right. Yeah. I'll share this. Years ago, I brought in Professor Keith Hearn from Stanford. He was geomorphic near surface hydrology professor to MMWD to look at erosion on the roads. And it went on for a couple of years, but then they needed to follow up. I started the ball rolling, and it kind of petered out after a while. But no, Stanford's a great resource. There are so many great people there, really great people there. Well, with that, does anyone else have any information items?
Yes, I do.
Max,
And I
please.
had to turn off my video because the sun's coming and blinding me, and so no one could see me anyway.
Yeah,
But
you looked a little, yeah,
it looked like I was receding into the light here.
yeah.
Anyway, just wanted to share out that Mark Brown came to our Southern Marin Disaster Council meeting last week. We meet every other month, and it's a collection of different disaster councils and emergency preparedness commissions in each of the incorporated cities in Southern Marin, as well as the unincorporated communities. And Mark gave a great presentation on Zone Haven. And from that conversation, we're working to incorporate it, Zone Haven information, into our outreach materials for the EPC, for the Mill Valley Emergency Preparedness Commission. So thanks, Mark, for coming and joining us. And I know your schedule is very busy, but if there's other places in the county that have similar bodies of different disaster councils or neighborhood response groups or other, even CERT, I think giving a similar presentation would be great, because then we can get more and more information out about Zone Haven and evacuation strategies.
Yeah, my pleasure. And I've been a fairly regular attendee of the Twin Cities Disaster Council through Gabe Paulson. And so I've been able to share that information back and forth. What I appreciate about the disaster councils is that they have the ears of the community, sometimes better than some of the other groups do. And likewise, they hear what the community is saying. So I've been able to get a lot of great information from those types of meetings. So whether it's me or the future planning and program manager, we will continue to interact in that way.
Great. Thanks, Mark.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, and thanks, Max, for your work there. It's important. Any more information items at this point? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 9, which is committee members' requests for future agenda items. At this time, does anyone have any committee requests? Oh, and let me mention that Mark did tell us a while ago, if we want anything included, we do have to have it in the Thursday before our meeting. So just keep that in mind, folks, if you want to get something in, that is enough time to get it posted. 72 hours, right, Mark?
Yep, I have to post by Sunday at 5:30. So my admin staff works, the last day my admin staff works is on Friday. So I try to get it to her the morning on Friday so she could have it wrapped up so we could post on time.
Right.
I'm not a committee member, but I do have a suggestion for a future agenda item. It's something that has come from the executive committee for all levels of the MWPA, including the board. And that would be a formal Brown Act training session during one of our committee meetings. I'm waiting to do the board until after we get through the board retreat, because we finally got 2 meetings in a row where we're under 2 hours for the board. And so once we get the board retreat done, I'm going to have whether it's Megan or one of her colleagues give a Brown Act training during the meetings. And I think we are getting to a point with the COC that we have the time frame to be able to get it done in a meeting. So if you guys are good with that, I can start scheduling that.
Oh, sure, bye. It's a
I
good
can't think
idea.
of, right. Larry, please.
Mark, is that just Brown Act or the full 1234 training?
Good question. I'll make sure. I'm going to lean on Megan for that.
Okay.
We'll let Larry do that. I believe he could probably do that for us.
Yeah, but if they do the full training, it'll help with dealing with the conduct documents and the policies and procedures.
Okay.
Oh, that's good to know.
Oh, yeah.
Great.
Great feedback. I'll bring that up with Megan.
Okay, very good. We're at item number 10, adjourn. And look at that, Mark, 1 hour and 4, huh?
Yeah.
I wanted to see the board break that record.
17 people.
We didn't dilly-dally. We didn't dilly-dally. And would someone please make a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
So moved. Okay, adjournment.
Second.
A second. Thank you, Stephen. And with that, thank you, folks. It was a really good meeting.
Take care, everybody.
For all making it. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. See you next
Take
time.
care.